Continuing where I left off, Nisus guarded a gate, a man at arms, with a fighting heart. Hyrtacus' son, the huntress Ida, had sent him to Aeneas' side. A quick hand with a javelin and arrows. Euryalus was his comrade, handsomer than any other soldier of Aeneas, wearing the Trojan gear, a boy whose cheek bore though unshaven manhood's early down. One love united them, and side by side they entered combat as they night they held the gate on the same watch. And Nisus said, "This urge to action, do the gods instill it, or is each man's desire a god to him? Euryalus, for all these hours I've longed to engage in battle, or to try some great adventure. In this lull I cannot rest. You see how confident the Rutilians are. Their watch-fire lights wink few and far between. They've all laid down in wine and drowsiness, and the whole place is quiet. Now attend to a thought I am turning over in my mind, a plan that grows on me. Recall Aeneas, everyone, seniors, all our folk, demand. Dispatch men to report to him. Will they not prompt the reward I ask for you? The glory of the feat's enough for me. Below that rise of ground that there I can find, I think, a way through to Fort Palatium." Taken aback, his love of glory stirred, Euryalus replied to his ardent friend, "And me? Are you refusing me my place beside you in this great affair? Must I send you alone into such danger? Born for that was I, and trained for that, amid the Argive terror, those hard hours of Troy, by a true fighter, one inured to battle, my father Opultus. Never till now have I behaved so at your side, and as a soldier pledged to see Aeneas' destiny through. Believe me, here's a spirit that disdains mere daylight. I'd hold life well spent to buy that glory you inspired to." Nisus answered, "Not for a minute had I any qualms about you on that score. Unthinkable! Witness great Jupiter, or whoever else may favor this attempt, by bringing me in triumph back to you. But if some god or accident defeats me, and one sees you, miscarriage of bold missions many a time, you must live on. Your age deserves more life. If I am dragged it free from a fight or ransomed, let there be someone who can bury me, or if, as often bad luck rules that out, someone who can carry out the ritual. For me, though I am not there, and honor me with an empty tomb. Then too I would not bring such grief on your poor mother, one who dared, as many mothers did not, child, to come this far with you, taking no care for shelter behind Asetus' walls." But the boy said, "Your reasoning is all a waste of breath. Not by an inch has my position changed. Let us be off." With this he roused the watch, men who came up to stand guard in their turn, as he took his relief, watching, matching his stride with Nisus, and they sought the Prince of Troy. Earth's other creatures now had given over care and sleep, forgetful of their toil. But the high Trojan captains, chosen men, held counsel on the realm's pressing affairs. What action should they take, or who should be their messenger to Aeneas? In the open midcourt of the camp, leaning on spears, gripping their shields they stood, and Nisus came. Euryalus beside him, eager men, who begged for a quick hearing, saying how grave the matter was, worth a commander's time. Iolaus moved first to hear the excited pair, ordering Nisus to speak out. He did so, saying, "Soldiers of Aeneas, Listen with open minds, and let what we propose be looked on without reference to our years. The Rutulians have quieted down. Their wine has put them all to sleep. But we make out an opening for a Sortie where the road divides there at the gate nearest the sea, a gap at that point in their lines of fires, with only black smoke rising. If you let us take advantage of this to find our way to Aeneid and Palatium, you'll see us back with plunder before long, and slaughter done. No fear the path will fool us. Many times, hunting these valleys, we have come in view of the town's outpost, and we know the river, the whole course of it, bowed by weight of years and ripe of mind. Aletus here exclaimed, Gods of our fathers, and whose shadow Troy forever lives, you are not after all intent on wiping out the Teucrians, seeing you've given our fighters daring souls and resolute hearts like these. And as he spoke, he took each by the shoulder, took his hand, while tears ran down his cheeks. What fit rewards for this brave action, shoulders, shall I reckon we can make to you? The best of all the gods will give, and your own sense of duty. Then our devout Aeneas will recompense you in other ways, and soon so will Ascanius. Young as he is, never will he forget a feat of this distinction. Here Ascanius broke in, Never indeed, as my well-being wholly depends on father's coming back, but our great household gods, by our hearth god, Lar of Asacharis, by white-haired Vestas, holy chapel, Nisus, hear my vow. Whatever fortune I may have, whatever hope I now commit to both of you. Recall my father, bring him before my eyes, with him recover, nothing can be grim. Then I shall give 2 cups well shaped in silver, rough with embossing, that my father took the day Arisba fell, twin tripods, 2 gold bards, and an ancient wine bowl, gift of the Dido the Sidonian. More than this, if it should happen that my father wins the land and throne of Italy, and divides by lot the captured booty, well, you've seen the mount that Turnus rode, the arms he bore, all golden. I exempt that mount, that shield, and crimson-crested helmet from allotment, even now, to be your trophies, Nisus. Father will reward you, too, with 12 deep-breasted beauties, and 12 captain men, each with his armor. Beyond these, whatever private lands the king Latinus owns. But as for you, whose age my own approaches, young but so admirable, I embrace you with my whole heart, and say you'll be my friend in all future adventures. There shall be no labor for distinction in my life, in wartime or in time of peace, without you. Whether in speech or action, all my trust goes now to you. Euryalus answered him, The day will never come when I shall prove unequal to this kind of mission, hard and daring as it is, if only fortune turns out to our benefit and not against us. One gift above all gifts I ask of you. My mother comes of the old stock of Priam, and she is here. Poor lady, Ilium, her homeland, could not keep her, neither could Asetus' city walls, from following me. I leave her ignorant of the risk I run, with no leave-taking. Let the present night and your sword arm be witness. I could not endure my mother's tears. Will you, I beg, console her in her deprivation, help her if she is left without me? Let me take this expectation of your care along. I shall face danger with a lighter heart. This moved the Dardan officers to tears. Iolus most of all. Thoughts of his own devotion to his fathers wrung his heart. When he had wept, he said, Be sure of it. All here will be conducted worthily of the great thing you undertake. that mother will be mine, only the name Creusa wanting to her, and I shall not stint in gratitude for parenthood so noble. Whatever comes of your attempt, I swear, and once my father did, by my own life, that all I promise on your safe return holds likewise for your mother and your kin. So he spoke out in tears, and from his shoulder lifted on his belt his gilded sword, a marvel of craft. It had been forged and fitted to an ivory sheath by the Gnosian Lycaon. To Nisus Mnestheus gave a lion's pelt and shaggy mane, and steadfast old Aletus made an exchange of helmets. Both now armed, they set out, followed to the gate by all the company of officers with prayers, from young and old, and in particular princely Iolus, thoughtful, responsible, beyond his years, gave many messages to carry to his father. These the winds of heaven scattered, every one unheard, and puffed them to the clouds. The messengers now issued from the gate, traversed the trench, and made their way through darkness toward the encampment, deadly to them, still before the end. They were to bring a bloody death on many. Now everywhere they saw in drunken sleep lax bodies on the grass, up-tilted chariots along the river, forms of men at rest amid the reins and wheels, arms lying there where wine cups also laid. The first to speak was Nisus, and he said, Euryalus, here I must dare to use my sword. The case cries out for it. Our path lies there. But you keep watch, keep well alert all around about, for any stroke against us from behind. Ahead, I'll devastate them right and left, and take you through. He broke off whispering to lunge at Rhamnus, the proud man propped up on rugs and snoring loud, lungs full of sleep, a king himself and augur to King Turnus. Now by no augury could he dispel his evil hour. 3 of his bodyguards, who lay nearby at random by their speeds, Nisus dispatched it, then Remus's armorer, then his charioteer, discovered prone under the very horses' feet. The swordsmen slashed their dropping necks. Then he beheaded Remus himself, their lord, and left the trunk to spout dark blood. By the warm blood the ground and bedding were all soaked. Next Lamurus and Lamus died, and so did Serenus, a handsome soldier who had played at dice that night for hours, now laid undone by abundant Bacchus. Lucky this man had been, if he had made his gambling last that night into the dawn. Think of an unfed lion, havoc in crowded sheepfolds, being driven mad by hunger, how with his jaws he rends and mauls the soft flock dumb with fear, and growls and feeds with bloody maw. Euryalus carried out equal slaughter, all inflamed it, as he too fell upon the nameless ranks of sleeping soldiery. Then he attacked it, Phaedus, Herbescus, Rotetus, Abaris, unconscious men. But Rotus came awake and took in everything, struck dumb with fear, trying to hide behind a huge wine bowl. Full in chest as he arose, the Trojan plunged his blade up to the hilt and drew it backward, streaming death. Dying, the man belched out his crimson life. Wine mixed it with blood as the hot killer like a cat pressed on. He came then to Messapus' company. There fires burning low, there tethered horses grazing the meadow. But now Nisus spoke in a curt whisper, for he saw his friend carried away by slaughter and lust for blood. Let us have done, he said. The dawn's at hand and dangerous. We've made them pay enough. We've cut our way through. Turning now, they left a quantity of booty, solid silver, armor, wine bowls, handsome rugs. Euryalus took medals and a golden-studded belt. From Rhamnus, gifts the rich man, Caedicius, in the old days had sent to Remulus. Of Tabor at a distant guest friend's pledge, and Remulus at death had passed them on to his own grandson, as whose death in war the Rutilians had got them. These the boy tore off and fitted to his torso, tough and stalwart as it was, through all in vain. Then donned Messapus, helm with his high plumb, as the marauders put the camp behind them, making for safety. At that hour, horsemen sent ahead from the city of Latinus, other troops behind halted on the plain, came bringing answers to the prince to Turnus, horsemen 300 strong, all bearing shields, with Vulcans in command. Nearing the camp, and riding toward the rampart, they caught sight of the 2 Trojans over there who veered on the leftward path. Euryalus' helmet, in the clear night's half-darkness, had betrayed him, glimmering back, as he had not foreseen, dim rays of moonlight, and the horsemen took sharp notice of that sight. Troop leader Volscens shouted, "Soldiers, halt! What's this patrol? Who are you 2 in arms there, and where bound?" They offered no reply to him, but made all speed into a wood, putting their trust in darkness there. Troopers rode left and right to place themselves at the familiar byways, until they had the wood encircled, every exit under guard. The wood itself covered much ground, all bristling underbush, dark ilex, and dense briars everywhere. To path a rare trace amid tracks grown over, deep night under the boughs, and weight of booty, slowed Euryalus, and feared confused him as to the pathway. Nisus, unsuspecting, got free of the wood, escaped the foe, ran past the places later known as Alban, Latinus' high-fenced castled pastures den. But all at once he stopped and looked around in vain for his lost friend. "Euryalus, poor fellow, where did I lose you? Where should I hunt for you? Back all that winding way, that maze of woodland, backward in his tracks, as he recalled them. Now he went and strayed through silent undergrowth. He heard the horses, heard the clamor and calls of the pursuit, and after no long interval, a cry came to his ear. Euryalus now he saw set upon the whole troop, first undone by darkness and the treacherous terrain, now overwhelmed by the sudden rush of men, who dragged him off, though right and left he strove. Now what could Nisus do? What strength had he? What weapons could he dare a rescue with? Should he then launch himself straight at the foe, through many wounds hastening heroic death? His arm drawn back, hefting his javelin, he glanced at the high quiet moon and prayed. "Do, goddess, do be near and help my effort. Latinus' daughter, glory of the stars and guardian of the groves, if Hartachus, my father, ever brought gifts to thy altars, votive gifts for me, if myself have honored thee out of my hunting spoils with offerings, hung in thy dome or fixed outside upon thy sacred roof, now let me throw this troop into confusion, guide my weapon through the air." He made the cast with all the force and spring of his whole body, and through the darkness of the night the javelin, whipping on, hit Sumo's back and snapped there, putting a splinter through his diaphragm. The man rolled on the ground and vomited, a hot flood, even as he himself grew chill, with long convulsions. All the rest peered round this way, then that way. All the more savagely the assailants heft the second javelin back to his ear. Now see commotion, hear the whizzing shaft. It splits the skull of Tagus side to side and sticks in the cleft hot brain. Now Volscens in wild rage nowhere saw. The man who threw the missile could not tell in what quarter to hurl himself. "All right," he said. "You, then you'll pay with your hot blood for both my men." And with his sword unsheathed, he went straight for Euryalus. Now truly mad with terror, Nisus cried aloud. He could not hide in darkness any longer, could not bear his anguish any longer. "No, me, here I am, I did it, take your swords to me, Rutilians. All the trickery was mine. He had not dared do anything, he could not. Heaven's my witness, and the stars that look down on us, all he did was care too much for a luckless friend." But while he clamored, Volscens' blade, thrust hard, passed through the ribs and breached the snow-white chest. Euryalus in death went reeling down, and blood streamed on his handsome length. His neck collapsing left his head fall on his shoulder, as a bright flower cut by a passing plough will droop and withered slowly, or a poppy bow its head upon its tired stalk, when overburned by a passing rain. Now Nisus plunged ahead into the crowd of men, and made for Volscens only, all of them all, concerned only with Volscens. All around him, enemies grouped to meet him, fend him off to left and right. But onward, all the same, he pressed his charge, swirling his lightning blade, until he sank it into the yielding visage straight before him. He took that life, even as he died himself. Pierced everywhere, he pitched down on the body of his friend, and there at last in peace of death grew still. Fortunate both, and if in the least my songs avail, no future day will ever take you out of the record of remembering time. With children of Aeneas make their home around the capital's unshaken rock, and still the Roman father governs all. And I'm going to leave it off there. Thank you so much for watching, viewing, subscribing, liking, and continue to watch. And if you want to, you can thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment, or viewing, subscribe, or do nothing. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.